Hey guys, Palsteron here, and today let's talk about what I will be starting in Last Epoch Season 3. So this league will be about dinosaurs. We have a new act in the game, Act 10, and it's called Beneath Ancient Skies, and it's a rework of a ton of things. For example, Necromancer, Lich, and also the thing I will be league starting with, Beastmaster. Now you might be wondering, Pal, don't you usually make fun of minion players? And it's kind of true, but at the same time, I'm dying a slow heat death over here, so I might as well try it out before I die. And there's actually a Beastmaster build I wanted to try for a while. Plus, there is a ton of new cool primordial items, which we're going to talk about as well in this video. Now, the biggest reason why I'm actually going to start minions, though, is the change to minion AI and a lot of the survivability issues that this archetype had. Especially Beastmaster had this, because if your companions die, you can't just resummon them, you actually have to stand on them and revive them, and that is just not very fun, especially if you want to kill, I don't know, bosses like Aberoth. But alongside that, the biggest problem was the minion AI. They would just go all over the place. They're always behind you. They have this weird ramp up time whenever they walk, and that should be addressed in this patch if everything goes according to plan. Now, one big difference between the Beastmaster changes and the Necro changes, though, is that while both kind of got reworked in the passive tree, basically all the summons also got huge buffs, as well as that the aspects. In case you don't know, Beastmaster works with these aspects that give certain buffs to you and your minions, and to say they got buff is a very, very light thing to say. It didn't just get buffed, it also got 80% increased effect on the tree as a whole. And while in the past you could get, I don't know, 20% to one specific aspect here or there, or sacrifice all your idols to get like 80%, you're getting 80% here for 10 points, and that is global on all aspects. And actually keep going and going, and I will go over why I think Scorpion is going to be quite interesting and all the buffs that it got. The first thing I want to start with to initiate you into Beastmaster is Primalist and leveling. You will notice that I will be talking a lot about leveling in this video and not as much as I usually do about Endgame. Why is that? Well, looking back, especially if you followed my builds or you followed the meta, a lot of you guys will have played something like a Falconer in one league and then a Sentinel in the other. Season 1, Season 2, now we're at Season 3, right? That was kind of where we're at. And those classes are extremely, like, flat in terms of its power, like very high power level, but they're flat. They start out incredibly strong and they end up incredibly strong. Primalist is a little bit different, especially Beastmaster. If you look at the Beastmaster buffs, they all concentrate kind of back there. And the only buff that is kind of very much up front, which is the aspect of the boar, only works for your minions once you have embodiment, which is once again back there. So one of my issues was, how can I play Beastmaster and minions as soon as possible without relying on items, and while like not necessarily needing to fill out all these nodes, because otherwise I couldn't start being a Beastmaster until like level 80. And the answer is to just do a lot of practice runs and find the perfect quote-unquote setup, and also go into Scorpion. So Scorpion is something I was interested in for a while. I was following cookbooks, forum guide, kind of like reading up on it, as well as that he made a video with Dread around about a year ago. The guy really knows his Scorpion. He's been playing it for hundreds and hundreds of hours. And looking into the numbers, it is probably one of the most underrated beasts. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that once you get into crit scaling, a lot of the new Primalist uniques and whatnot, there's builds that can definitely beat it. But just to give you a little bit of a peek in why Scorpion is so interesting, if we look at Scorpion, it has probably one of the most broken trees I've ever seen. Like, I'm not really too alert about minions, but looking into this and comparing it to a lot of the others, especially numbers, it's kind of stupid. If you've played Last Epoch before, you know how these trees usually go, right? You go into one direction and you have to fulfill certain conditions, and then you get like a multiplier or something to your damage, but you have to do this, you have to do that. Well, so Scorpion starts out 5 points here, 150% more poison damage. That goes for its ability, which we'll talk about, and its auto attacks. Its ability also has this note right here, 150% more damage, 150% increased AoE. They just buffed the poison pool, which is now a 1-pointer for 4-second duration. You basically plop it down and everything afterwards still gets poisoned. Okay, these nodes right here, also very nice. 4 points for 100% chance to poison, and then these nodes right here, 100% more damage and 50% chance to bleed. That is 4 premium multipliers. Like, I don't know how to like describe this, but this skill is basically already a package. Now, looking at Scorpion as a minion, it has 100% more movement speed, making it pretty damn agile, and it has 50% less damage taken. That is very standard for most minions. Health regen, I think, is also quite standard. It has strength scaling, and it just got buffed, so it also has dexterity scaling now, making it a lot easier, and we'll talk about the tree and everything. This is just free, I don't know, 120% increased damage or something like that. But then if you look into what it does, right, there's first the big one. There is the ability, Venom Nova. Venom Nova has intrinsically, it's basically this AoE that also has like these projectiles flying out. I'll show it to you in a second. And it has 300% chance to apply poison to everyone in 4-meter radius every 10 seconds. That's the cooldown of the ability, which you can override and do it over and over and over. And here it is. 300% chance to poison off the bat. Now, that is pretty damn premium, but it gets way better. So the poison bullets that fly out after also have 100% chance to apply poison. All of this does scale off of the 100% chance to poison from the tree. And as well as that, that's not it, right? Like the minion still exists. That is just its ability. You also have the Scorpion itself, which does a tail attack, which not only has 200% chance to apply poison, it also has 200% increased duration, which is unheard of on a Beastmaster. It is not really possible to get increased duration, so very nice. And then the normal melee attack. I'm not really sure how often it does the tail attack, how often it does the melee attack, but it is quite noticeable when it goes to a single target and just keeps whacking. I'll show you some gameplay from Cookbook's video with Dread, 1000+ corruption from around about a year ago, where he kind of goes over the build and shows it off. So basically what's happening here is you hit something and then these projectiles fly out, and there's also a poison pool in the middle. And the thing is that you have Swipe, which basically grants you the ability to recycle this over and over and over again. So if you looked at the Swipe tree right here, you go through here, you have to take Claws of the Bear, which gives Swipe a 2-second cooldown, but then you have Primal Resonance, which not only lets you repeat this 10-second cooldown over and over and over, it does not even go on cooldown, so it still has its separate attack, but it also heals the Scorpion to full. So there is never any chance that it can ever die. On top of that, you have a Terra's Blessing, which he isn't really pressing while he's clearing, but whenever he does heal his minion with a Terra's Blessing, he's going to consume mana and once again, cast Venom Nova again. It has great single target damage, it has great clear, and it is for a Beastmaster, and it is just overall a powerhouse out of the gates. You don't really need much gear whatsoever. It is a great league starter. I don't know what else to say. I've tried the playstyle. It's quite fun. You move around, your Poison Nova gets cast, you swipe every 2 seconds whenever you get to a pack, everything dies. So we talked about Scorpion, we talked about Swipe. Now at Terra's Blessing, the thing I talked about is Encourage, and this gives you 100% chance to refresh the companion ability, and it gives you a little bit extra cost. If you don't know, Terra's Blessing gives your Scorpion 100% increased damage, and it also heals it to, which you don't really need. The heal itself isn't that important. Other than that, you also give it 150% chance to poison once you get that, and the rest is just kind of used for some mana efficiency. On top of that, we're gonna jump around with Fury Leap just to be a little bit faster, but you're also gonna use Warcry, which gives you your Scorpion another 100% chance to poison. Just to reiterate, all of these chance to poison work for the projectiles of the Nova itself, and even the auto attacks. Either way though, I highly recommend checking out Cookbook's guide. I'll link it down in the description. Before we jump into leveling, I'll quickly show you the rest of the quote-unquote finished Scorpion setup, which you're gonna have around about level 60 to 80. Once again, it scales off of Strength and it scales off of Dexterity. Those are the ones you want. Strength is a little bit better than Dexterity because Strength also gives you 4% armor per point, which is quite a bit better than the dodge you get from Dexterity. Other than that, minion damage, minions are companions, and then you fill it out with Hunter's Restoration for some health. You just want to get to 20 and then dip. And the rest is all in the Beastmaster tree, and this one is quite stacked after the changes. You start with Urzen Strength, once again, Strength, and also less damage taken from nearby enemies. Now, this node right here is actually buffed, and it is something that will help you out a lot while leveling. It used to say only minion melee damage, now it's just minion damage, which also works for your poison. In endgame, you will respec this dose and only 1 point remains. And then you have Order's Loyalty, which gives you 85% more damage. There's also a node back down here, which gives you 75% more damage. This is if you only have one companion, and it's limited to one companion, right? So you can't even cast more than one, but that is the payoff. You this together, these both multiplied, they're separate multipliers, give you, I think, 223% more damage. Then we have Aspect of the Boar, and this is a quite interesting one, and I'm kind of interested whether I'm actually going to mix a little bit of bleed in here. So Aspect of the Boar gives you 15% reduced damage taken, which also gets scaled by the Porcine Constitution, which gives you another 15% less damage taken, which is quite premium. But for your minions, like I said earlier, there's actually this companion effect, which gets the 30% less damage taken in total to 54% less damage taken. So your Scorpion is going to be a lot more sturdy, and it gets perma-healed by your own swipes. So that's quite strong, and possibly I'll also take Tusk Warrior. We'll have to see, but it is just kind of too impressive to not take. This bleed chance and this physical penetration should scale with the increased aspect effect, at least the way it's stated right here. If that is the case, a little bit of that bleed is also going to seep in. Also do remember that the Scorpion already gets, I think, 50% chance to bleed intrinsically. You then take the Chase. This one got buffed. Basically, after reviving a companion, it now stays immune for 4 seconds. Truth be told, I don't think this will really ever happen, but if it does, I guess that's a nice bonus. I just took it because, I don't know, the attack speed is good and I needed to travel up there. Natural Fortitude. This one stayed the same. It's just a very strong passive skill. Gives you a ton of regen, gives your companion a ton of regen. We already talked about this one right here. Then we get into Aspect of the Viper. So this is a buff that this also got buffed this patch. Aspect of the Viper gives you and your companions 100% chance to poison and 20% more damage over time. And this once again scales with effect. So just with the 80% effect right here, you're getting 180% chance to poison and 36% more damage over time. As well as that, it only lasts for 3 seconds, which is kind of annoying, especially because your swipe has a cooldown, because it only has a 30% chance to occur on hit. But with the increased aspect duration here, and here it actually goes up to almost 9 seconds. And the poison penetration you get from this node also scales with effect. So you're getting not 40, you're getting 72%. At the end here, we're also taking Ancient Might. For 5 points, you get +1 level of minion skills and reduced bonus damage taken from crits and some minion health and health. Very solid. And then at the end, Exemplar, which is usually used for minion stacker build. So you want like 6-7 maximum companions, but just the node alone is broken. It's like 2 strength and 2 dexterity per point. And note how our Scorpion scales exactly strength and dexterity both. As for your gear and blessings and idols, I haven't really fully finished this one. I will update this planner as we go in the next 2 days before the release. Or you can also check it on stream, obviously, always. But what you're looking for is minion damage and minion damage over time. If you can get a Concentration of Sorrow here and you get minion damage over time on it, then that is GG. This in total is around about 600% increased damage. You can't really ask for much more off of a two-hander. There's also the other weapon that you can get, but that's not really as early game. It is the Scales of Lemniscate. Don't get confused by any of this. It's just about the minion damage, right? You just take it as minion damage, but this one is higher level and it's higher to get LP on it. It also gives you a little bit of health. Other than that, your gear is very much up in the air, mostly defensive stuff, dexterity, strength, once again, scales your damage, but otherwise you just want resistances, armor, endurance, life, all the good stuff. I'll fill it out a little bit. But that's kind of the outline for the Scorpion stuff. Now I want to talk about leveling, which is, I think, the most important thing you have to understand. I was quite privileged when it comes to last Epoch leveling without really realizing. I haven't played that many builds. I usually play 1 to 2 builds per league, and then I kind of move on because there's just a lot of RPGs to play right now. But I haven't played Primalist in a while, and it is not an easy level. It is not on the level of a Sentinel or a Rogue, which is mostly the classes I've been playing for the last few leagues. But last league, they made it so you can actually respec the Ascendancies. So you don't have to start as a Beastmaster. You can start as a Druid, which opens you up to stuff like Storm Totem. And I've been rigorously trying for the last few days to make it as comfy as possible and as powerful as possible, and I present to you what I've been going for. And just so we're clear, I've been testing this build on the worst case scenario, which is not only did I not kill any Nemesis, I haven't used any of the uniques I found whatsoever, I haven't killed any of the loot goblins, I also forgot to put on my filter and was basically running around with a white weapon because I forgot to shatter the minion flat damage that I'll show you in the planner, which you will not make that mistake, and it still gotten smooth. Now, the reason this works is because of the ability Summon Storm Totem, and I'll quickly show it to you here with some of the mobs. So you plop it down and it has like this blizzard around it, which does a ton of damage. And the biggest problem with Primalist is really clear because there's a ton of other abilities. I haven't even summoned the Scorpion, but there's a ton of other abilities that have single target, right? Your minions are going to go off on it. But when it comes to clear, this is just absolutely insane. And it just keeps zapping. It's not just a blizzard. It has this zap attack. This skill is just plain up busted. There are also Thorn Totems, which are these right here. They are a lot less OP. They're just very much normal totems that just do very normal attacks. I will just only put it down without the Storm Totem because otherwise the Storm Totem would just one-shot it. So as you can see right here, it applies poison stacks, right? It does some nice extra damage and it especially carries you until you get to Storm Totem. Now, one of the biggest reasons why I go for this double totem setup as opposed to something like Tempest Strike and Storm Crows, which a lot of the other builds go for, is this node right here. You and your totems deal additional spell damage. This bonus is tripled while using an axe. Using an axe, even though we are technically minion spellcasters, doesn't have a downside because the flat spell damage on a staff wouldn't work anyways. But a bearded axe implicit has up to 50% increased minion damage, and you can still get stuff like flat spell damage on your suffix. So for example, I don't think I have it here because I'm on SSF. Yeah, okay, now I actually do have it. Minion spell and bow damage. You can craft this on your weapon, and this is what you would want if you didn't do limit testing, right? You would want this. This is an incredible effect, and getting up to 20 or even 25 is huge. There's also another role. It's not just minion spell and bow damage. There's also minion melee and spell damage, and you can have technically both on your weapon. But like I said, what is so fascinating is if you have an axe, this gets tripled, right? So you get 15 flat spell damage. If you don't know, totems start out at a very low level. They have a really good hit rate, but very low level of flat damage to begin with, and you really need it through gear usually. But this node helps you quite a bit, and it's even worth going over 20 points for it, and it will carry you like nothing else. So that is the idea, at least. And what I ended up doing is I put these into 4 phases. Phase 1 is going to be Summon Thorn Totem plus Scattering Storm, which is basically just an auto attack that you get early, so you do something yourself, right? It isn't a mana spender. Thorn Totem does cost mana, but this one has no mana cost whatsoever. Then you go into phase 2, which is Thorn Totem plus Storm Crows. We're going to go into these setups a little bit more in detail. And then what I currently showed you is where I'm here, where I go into Storm Totem plus Thorn Totem, and then I respec into Scorpion instead of Storm Crows, because at this point, I can actually spec some nodes into it, and it is going to be quite strong. Even though I have almost no scaling from the tree and most of it is spell damage, and the Scorpion doesn't scale with spell damage, it's still brutal. And like I said, swipe with Primal Resonance to recycle the Venom Nova ability over and over. And then I also have phase 4, which is basically a full Scorpion, where I also filled in some passive points and whatnot, which we talked about a little bit earlier when I talked about full Scorpion. But let's just start from the beginning. So Thorn Totem is going to be the first skill you're going to specialize at level 4. Let's zoom in a little bit more here. And a lot of people go for different setups here. I swear on Chance to Poison. I know that it isn't synergistic with the flat spell damage, but Poison Chance at the start with how many hits you have and how strong Poison is just, it's just non-negotiable in my personal opinion. So you go right side, which gives you a little bit of mana efficiency. So the first 2 points are kind of wasted, quote unquote. And then you just start stacking poison. And this is really important. Ton of people go down here with Titan's Bane. The problem is that you only fire 1 projectile, and it really slowed down my clear. And I noticed I got way less XP. If you think about the playstyle of this build, what you can do a lot of times is just move, place totem, right? And stuff dies behind you, which means you can't loot it, but it still gives you a ton of EXP, and EXP also means levels, so you're gonna have a lot cozier time. As for Gathering Storm, this one you get later, so you'll only be around about at level 4. This one's not that important. You go Wind Fury Blows, and then you get Island Cleaver. You don't even really need to know how this ability works. It's basically an auto attack that also gives you a little bit of a zap. So if you itemize a little bit into spell damage, that's pretty nice. For the passive tree on this version, all you're gonna do until level 15 when you get Storm Crows, when we get to the next phase, is attunement, right? One of the biggest things with starting tree on Primalist is it's garbage. It's hot garbage. Like, it's so bad compared to a lot of the other classes. And these starting skills, I don't know how to describe this, but the starting skills are all over the place. They're like attunement, strength, and they don't really fit together. It's actually quite annoying, and you have to kind of get to one theme and then stick to it. So for example, right here, you really want attunement, you don't want the strength. it is what it is. That's why I'm using the skills that I'm using. So take the attunement, then take the Wisdom of the Wild, and also take the Primal Medicine. So now if you reach level 15, next tree. What happens at level 15? You get Summon Storm Crows, and you're also going to be ascending to a Shaman. Summon Storm Totem is what you get. Summon Storm Totem has the Blizzard around it, which is straight up just going to one-shot all the small stuff, so your minions can focus on the rest. This one is amazing. Spec up here ASAP, and then put, in my opinion, 2 points here. If you end up getting super unlucky and you get no spell damage for minions whatsoever on your, on your axe you want to use, right? You can maybe put in more points, but I would highly recommend just going for these 2 points. After that, you spec into cast speed, go down for the AoE so you can spec into intensity for extra more damage. And then Storm Crows, you're only going to have 2 because you're not a Beastmaster yet. So these are not all that important. You don't need to go up because you're not really dealing much damage yourself. All you want to do is take Abyss for the 30% cast speed, and then you go down for the shock chance and also the extra damage per shock. These are just because they're 3, right? Like they're just minions that spawn. You have 2 of them and they zap enemies. Plus they're also attunement based, plus they're also spell based, so they fit perfectly. And this is going to hold up until level 34, where I'm personally going to start transitioning into the full Scorpion. But what you have to know about Scorpion is when you first get it, it's a little bit, whatever, right? It's not bad, but it's not great, right? It's like, because the problem is you get this 4th skill slot here at level 35. Until then, you really want to keep the rest because you still need to clear. And at level 35, you're getting 6 points. And that's not that much, right? You're going to get Noxious Carapace and a little bit into Miasma. But every point on this tree is so goddamn broken that the more you get, it's just... Think about it this way. Whenever you get a skill point into Scorpion, you get 30% more damage. That's, I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but it's just, it's insane. It's like on another level to most other skills. So you want to carry it along and get carried by these totems until it gets strong. But if you don't spec into it early, you don't get the levels. That's just how this game works. I hate it, but it is what it is. And so you're going to replace your crows. Your Scorpion is going to be decent, but it's not going to be like the end-all be-all. But it's going to be there, and it's going to start leveling, and it's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger to a point where at some point you're like, why am I even using totems anymore? But you will also go for swipe here and for Primal Resonance. Whenever you swipe something with a 2-second cooldown, you will activate the Nova of the Scorpion, and it is quite strong. You also want to take Duality of Nature. This one gives you a little bit of extra mana back. Now, the transition from phase 3 to phase 4, which is basically going to be Scorpion, and where I'm going to end it, and where I'm probably going to farm a few hundred corruptions with it, is going to start once you have enough points to take Natural Bond. At that point, you're going to have your main tree, where you're going to respec these 5 points, and then... As you can see right here, 25, if I take those 5 points out, I have 31 in the Beastmaster tree. I can path here, or put enough points here that I can get to Natural Bond. And then the 31, the last point, is for Natural Bond itself. This is where your Scorpion gets the second multiplier, the 75% more damage. So we got 85% more damage here if it's your only companion, and then 75% more here. And this is where you definitely start overtaking the totem build. Now, I'll say this again. It might be that with all the changes and all the buffs next patch, this is too much min-maxing, and it doesn't even matter. You're just going to slap it on level 30, and it's going to be fine. I don't know, simply speaking. So this is what I've concocted to just make sure that everybody has a good time, okay? So once you take this node, you can go full Scorpion, and I'll kind of explain what's going on here. I kind of already did early on, but once again, you have Atura's Blessing, which with Encourage resets your companion ability. Your companion ability is what does most of the damage. The Venom Nova, right, which is kind of like a poison pool, plus projectiles that fly out after. It's a ton of damage. The minion AI is very good because now the Scorpion is in front of you instead of trailing in the back, and it's kind of weird for clear. It's going to be a lot better. This poison pool right here is going to help a lot. This is buff. This used to be 4 points for 4 seconds. Now it's just 1. And the big superstar here is the swipe. So the swipe with the 2-second cooldown. Every 2 seconds, you hit something, and it activates the Nova, which usually is a 10-second cooldown. It is amazing. I want to point out 2 mistakes that I've seen people make when trying this setup, and also stuff that I didn't really know about. The first one is not using numpad. If you don't know what numpad is, it's something in last Epoch that a lot of people do. You have the numpad on your keyboard, and what you can do is you go to settings right here, you go to gameplay, and change input keys, right? And right here, you can put keypad 1. In order to do that, you have to press num and then 1 while you're in here. And you can set your first ability, for example, where your Poison Nova is going to be, your Scorpion ability, to 1. What that means is if you press numlock and then press 1 and then release the numlock button, now your Poison Nova is automatically going to cast on cooldown. This one is quite important. A lot of people use it on I don't know how many builds, and it is just very, very comfy. The reason this is important is because once you have a Terra's Blessing, you're going to reset the cooldown of your Venom Nova over and over. It's not like Swipe, right? Like Swipe is different because Swipe, you go to an enemy and it's just going to do the Poison Nova. It doesn't reset the cooldown. It literally just casts the skill. But if you later spam a Terra's Blessing, which is super good on single target, you just reset it. So you would have to press the Terra's Blessing and then also press the Venom Nova. So once you get there, definitely look into numpad if you've never done it before. And the second thing is bad respec-in, and I've done this as well. Ardor's Loyalty on a Scorpion build is 85% more damage. That is one single point. It is like insane. Same thing here, Natural Bond, 75% more damage. That is how solo companions are balanced. Those are just like nothing else in this game. You need to take them. Once you respec, that is the first mistake you can make. These two, just like ingrain them into your brain and always check if you have them. The second thing is that once you go full Scorpion, you want to go out of attunement and into strength. Just realize that all you had in terms of like attunement, you now have to go to strength and dexterity. Those are now your main attributes. But let's talk about endgame builds here, because Scorpion is probably going to be my mid-game package, as I talked about. And endgame, I'm not really sure. It will have to do with some of the primordial items I'm going to show you in a second and how easy they are to get. We know that they can be achieved from a vendor, but we don't know how hard it is to get the ingredients to buy them from the vendor. So I wanted to go safe with the Scorpion. Do whatever you must. The first one is Earthquake. So there is the Earthquake here, but I'm talking about the Bear Earthquake. So what changed this patch? Bear got this node right here, Ground Shaking Might. Bear can use Earthquake, but it has only half damage. The catch is it scales with your Bear's stats, so with minion damage and stuff like that, while using the Earthquake tree. But your Bear scales with the Bear tree. So what that means is not only do you get all the multipliers from the Bear tree, you also get all the multipliers from the Earthquake tree. Plus, on the passive tree, if you remember, you can get 75% more damage and 85% more damage from this one and this one, respectively, which also counts for your Earthquake. So in theory, in endgame, Earthquake is a very high damaging ability. This should be broken. It is also the most obvious build, and it needs a little bit of gear to get going. It needs a little bit of CDR. You can also reset the cooldown with a Warcry. All the good stuff. This will be one of the best Beastmasters in the game, for sure. And Lizard has a guide out, so if you want to eventually get into this, highly recommend. Second build I'm quite interested in is Frogs. This one is a little bit more under the radar, but people are catching up to it. This item right here is a primordial item. So you can only use one primordial item at a time. Quite strong. It has a really good base, probably the best helmet base for the class. +2 to maximum companions, very strong. And then if you have less than your maximum number of active companions, you summon Anoroks. These are not companions and they don't have their own skill tree, right? But them not counting as companions means a few things. It means it has downsides, but it also has upsides. One of the upsides is you can use a one companion build, for example, one Raptor or one Sabertooth or whatever, still get the buffs from these two, stack maximum companion amount, and still get a ton of minions, right? Like that is very strong because they're technically not companions. Downside is since they're not companions, they won't get anything from any of these aspects. So Viper Fangs or later on aspect of the Shark, all of this stuff just doesn't work on them. And they don't have a tree. So that's a little bit of an issue. But if you actually look up the minion itself, which is on Last Epoch Tools right now, they have scaling. Per strength, they get 4 Fizz Pen. On a lot of these builds, you can have around about 100 strength and maybe like 60, 70 dexterity or so. That is like 400 pen and I don't even know, like a few hundred crit multi, which is not easy to come by. And it also gets increased damage per level. So it still gets all the increased damage in the world that you want. The most interesting thing about this one, though, is the other item that they just released, which is the Land Before. This one is a weird item. And before we saw the Anorok stuff, I wasn't really sure what it was used for. +4 companions, if this is your only unique idol, which is not that hard. +4 is broken, so where's the catch? You cannot summon more than one of any type of companion. Now, once again, Anoraks are not companions, so what you can technically do is with all the different maximum companions, you can get up to 11 maximum companions, but then only summon, I don't know, a bear or a raptor or something, which you can with this. And then the rest gets filled up with frogs, right? So which is incredible. It also gives you 56 Fizz Res. I don't know how rare this is, once again, which is why I'm starting with Scorpion, but that is hella interesting and something we'll have to try out. And the third build I'm interested in is actually something on the Scorpion tree that just got released, which is your Scorpion has a chance to cast Maelstrom whenever you do. Maelstrom cast by your Scorpion, use the Scorpion stats, but your Maelstrom tree. Once again, it's the same as with the Earthquake Bear. You're getting the more multiplier from the trees that usually only affects the minion for your Maelstrom. And also, as I stated, stuff like more damage over time or more cold damage will now also work on your Maelstroms from the other tree. Maelstrom is basically like this cold effect around you. It's kind of like a cold RF. So I don't know how strong this is going to be. I didn't math it out completely. It looks quite strong. It needs a little bit more gear. It is a damage over time, so you cannot poison. So all of this poison synergy is falling off. So you need to kind of have a different theme here, which I'm not really sure about yet. But you can spam like 20 different Maelstroms. And in theory, this could be quite wild. But it is something I currently can't test in-game. And it's going to be completely new. But it's definitely something I'm going to talk to you guys about in my first updates. Other than that, if you're interested, the Metro Boys have updated their catalog, or a lot of it. I think there's still some more to come. But there's Sabertooth, Raptor, Earthquake, Bear, which is probably the most interesting one. And Stormcrows also got updated, which got quote-unquote nerfed. But with all the general buffs, it's still quite strong. So in general, I don't think much can go wrong if you're Beastmaster. The only thing that can go wrong is if you didn't look into leveling at all. You're going to have a rude awakening, I'm going to tell you right now, especially if you're used to some of these super good leveling classes. So check out the start of the video where I talk a little bit more about it. I can vouch for that setup. Tarek, also, there are leveling guides right here, right? Like, for example, Tarek has a Primalist leveling guide and a Druid leveling guide. Highly recommend that as well. This one is probably the closest to what I was doing. It's a little bit different with Spriggan form, but Tarek knows what he's doing, so you're never going to go wrong with that either. But whatever you choose, hope you guys are having a blast. If you want to play Sentinel stuff from last league, Warpath got slight nerfs, right? The mana is going to be a little bit more awkward, but also do remember the Primordial stats mean that you can now get reduced channeling cost even higher. That could be a big deal. Warpath might even be one of the strongest builds in the game. So if you want to play that again, do it. If you want to play Rogue again, do it. I'm just trying to do something new. I want to learn a little bit more about the game. And by studying a lot of these minions, there were so many things I didn't understand, which was just very, very fun to figure out. So if you want to go along this ride, then check me out on twitch.tv/Palsteron. I'll be playing Scorpion at least for 1 to 2 days. And after that, we'll see how easy it is to get some of these primordial items. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed the guide. I will be updating. I will be making a day 1 and a day 2 update. Afterwards, I'll be honest, I'm looking towards Period 2 as well. It's kind of like we're in a crunch right now. Period 2 is coming out in like a little bit more than a week, so I'll see. But I'll at least update 2 to 3-ish times, depending on how much I have to say. And I think Beastmaster is going to be good regardless, no matter what you start with. And yeah, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.